It's 2 days till Christmas, when we celebrate the birth of Jesus, who was born in a stable because his mother didn't have the vaccine passport you need to get into the inn. Is that right? As the years roll by, the details grow hazy, because in the last 2 years there's been a great absence of the church in the life of the nation. When the COVID showed up, churches throughout Christendom were deemed non-essential, which is an odd way of looking at it, because a transcendent meaning to life is essential to every society. Something beyond the mere present tense, especially when the present tense, the mere here and now, is getting shorter. According to analysts at the Royal Bank of Canada, I have no idea why they were studying this, but according to those analysts, life expectancy in the UK has fallen by 9 months. Could be the COVID, could be the undiagnosed cancers, and all the rest of it. If it's any consolation to the actuarially challenged denizens of these islands, depressed by that statistic, in America, it's even worse. During 2020, US life expectancy fell by nearly 2 years. Could be the COVID, could be the soaring rates of drug deaths and teen suicides, maybe mental health issues more generally. So you would think a society in a slough of despond, in and out of lockdown for almost 2 years, would be a grand opportunity for Christian ministry. Instead, the church meekly accepted their designation as non-essential. They stuck laminated notices on the church doors saying, "Don't even think of praying here." And according to Douglas Murray in The Spectator, actually encouraged the government to close them down. In the fullness of time, the garden centres reopened, the pubs reopened, but churches didn't. Do you know your Magna Carta? You don't have to go too far deeply into this rather dense text. We're dealing with the very first article here. "We have granted to God, and by this our present charter have confirmed for us and our heirs forever, that the Church of England shall be free and shall have all her whole rights and liberties inviolable." The relationship between church and state as delineated 800 years ago. The King didn't say that ye old garden centre, just off the bypass, take the third left off the mini roundabout, shall be free and have all her rights and liberties inviolable. He said the church. In part because of our lack of faith, Britain, like most of Western Europe these days, is an ageing society, and the Church of England's remaining congregants are more elderly still. They're lonely. The doctors complain that an extraordinary proportion of face-to-face appointments are with frequent attendees who go to the surgery principally because they're lonely. What better time for the church to say, you may be socially distant, but you're spiritually connected? Instead, Church of England bishops put worship into lockdown, and we heard not a peep from them, except for the usual club-footed attempts to cut themselves a piece of the news cycle. So a whole bunch of C of E bigwigs decided to weigh in on what's his name? Dominic Cummings? Remember the guy? He drove his kid to his grandparents. Everyone went bonkers. And suddenly the mute panjandrums of the established church rose as one to denounce Cummings for his offences against lockdown. Other than that, it's just been the usual interventions to show how trendy and groovy and with it they are. So when George Floyd was killed in Minneapolis, the Archbishop of Canterbury came to in Lambeth Palace and denounced his own church for its appalling institutional racism. If a church isn't even open, does it matter that it's institutionally racist? It's just being institutionally racist to itself. Nobody else need be involved. As I said, an opportunity missed. Tens of millions of people stuck at home with nothing but meretricious drivel from their streaming services. Granny's dead in the old folks' home, denied human contact for the last 3 months of her life. Your kid's semi-suicidal. The bloke next door missed his stage 2 cancer appointment, and now it's stage 4. And sure, you're doing okay, could be worse. But sitting around the flat for months on end, having exhausted the dregs of your Netflix subscription, you start thinking, well, maybe there's more to life. Maybe there's a higher purpose. Because the lower purpose, which is waiting for Boris to say, okay, you can switch off Netflix now and go outside for half an hour of exercise in the park, is about as low as it can get. But no, for 2 years, the church has been yet another of the dogs that didn't bark. There are, however, occasional exceptions to that general rule. Ladies and gentlemen, the Reverend William Pearson G. last Sunday.
Before we go on, I just wanted to say I spent 2 days last week batting off emails about whether we should close the church, cancel the services, and all the rest of it. And I just wanted to speak to you from my heart. We are not a cinema. We are not the O2 Arena. We are not a football match. We're not going to play by those rules. We are a family of brothers and sisters in Christ who come together on a Sunday to worship the living Jesus Christ. Not a football match, not a film, nothing like that. I am not going to close our services until I am ordered by law to do so. And even if that happens, it will be screaming and kicking. Because we're not an entertainment venue. We are here to worship the God who is sovereign over all of this mess, over all the ineptitude that the government can throw at us. And it is all the more important that we gather together as brothers and sisters in Christ to worship God.
We are not a cinema. Christmas service is not a screening of X-Men 37. Sad that that even needs to be said. What do you think? Should the bishops and archbishops show a bit of the spirit of Buckingham? Let me know your take at GBViews at gbnews.uk or on Twitter at GBNews.